In this lesson, we'll create CMS-driven map dots where we can set the position of each collection item from collection fields. To do this, we'll be using a plain text collection field where we can set the position from top and left for each CMS item like so. We'll also be using Webflow's new DOM element that allows us to set inline styles and link that to a collection field. So let's get started. So in our section, let's add a div and give it the class of MapWrap. In that, we'll add an image and choose one from our library. Let's give it the class of MapImage. We'll need to set an aspect ratio. I'll use a 16:9 ratio, and it'll need a fit of cover. Now inside our MapWrap, let's add a collection list. I'll link this to my product descriptions collection. With the wrapper selected, I'll create a class of absolute full. I'll use this to set a position of absolute to cover the full parent. That means the parent, the MapWrap, will need a position of relative. Once we have that set, I'll grab the collection list and give it the same class of absolute full, and then each of the collection items can share that same class, so they stack on top each other. In the items, we'll need a map dot, and we'll use a custom element for this because it gives us more options. On the custom element, we'll give it a class of map dot. Let's give it a width and height. I'll use something like 1.5 rem. And there is some just placeholder padding on this. Let's zero that out so it's the right size. And let's give it a background color. I'll use the brand swatch here. And let's give it a border 2 pixels. I'll use the light swatch and a radius of 50%. Now this step's important. We need to set it to position absolute to the top left corner. And for each dot, we'll want to set them in a different position. So inside my collection, I've created a plain text field here for the position of each item. And I've set that for the first 2 items here. Let's set it for this last one together. So we'll set top colon and we'll do 40% semicolon space left colon 85% semicolon. And that's how we can set the style for the top and left offset of each item. So if we save that, we now need to apply it to each map dot. So if we head to settings, we can create an attribute, and usually style would be a reserved name, but it works on custom elements. So we can set style there and set the value to be our plain text position field. When we do that, each of the dots are placed around this image here, and they even scale with the image size on different breakpoints. Now they are scaling from the top left corner, so if the image is really small and the dots are large, it's not going to be perfectly placed on the element we want it to be placed on. So to fix that, we can apply a transform to each map dot, and we'll push it on the X negative 50% of its own width, and on the Y negative 50% of its own height. And when we do that, they'll always stay in the perfect center of that anchor point. Even when the image is really small, the dots are staying in the right place. We might also want some text inside these. Let's grab the map dots and set them to a z-index of 2 so they are on top of the items, and that way we can hover each dot like so. I'll even give it a cursor of pointer just to show that it's hoverable. And let's add some plain text inside the items. I'll pull this from the name of each item, and I'll give this a class I've created called map tag, and that just has some padding and a background blur and font color. So with the map dot selected, I'll apply flex, align center, justify to the right. And then the text here is set to don't shrink or grow. And I'll also give it some margin of 2 rem. Now everything else in this text is set using EMs, the padding, the font size, and the border radius here. And that EM is based on the font size of its parent. So if I set this parent to 1 rem or something like that, notice how it's scaling the text inside of that dot. So what I'll do is apply a transition to font size, and I'm just doing this as a quick way to animate for now. Font size transition 200 milliseconds, and I'll set the map dot font size to 0 pixels by default. And whenever we hover, I'll set it to 1 rem, and that way each dot we hover reveals the related text. And that's all we need to create a map that's fully responsive, where the position of these dots are set from collection item fields. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and I'll catch you in the next one.